when it comes to like him being himself and not Superman, it was kind of maybe a little bit lackluster. I don't know. I guess because I just didn't really see him as actual being Clark Kent and being at the newspaper type style. And I think that kind of weighed on me with everything that I've ever watched Superman. I didn't really get to see him as the other side, as being Clark.
Yeah, there was that one brief moment at the end of Man of Steel where he had the glasses on. He was like,
yeah. And you're just like, dude, you're Superman. Those glasses ain't hiding nothing, man. You're too big, bro.
You're 280 pounds and you're like 6'4". You're jacked. That's like, Superman.
Let me go to the payphone. He was like, dude, you can't move around in there, man. You have a hard time just wiping in the bathroom. Your muscles are so big.
You get called daddy a lot?
On the internet, sure.
What better way to start off with George Reeves, who a lot of people aren't super familiar with. I know that I did have a brief history with George Reeves. My parents had VHS tapes of Mr. Reeves at that time. I thought he was a pretty cool interpretation of Superman. Of course, going back, he doesn't have the physique that even Christopher Reeves has, or especially Henry Cavill. I mean, this guy looks like a Greek god, right? But for its time, it definitely accomplished a lot, and it was definitely the foray of Superman into live action.
When you said George Reeves, I was like, I have no idea who that is. I know I show my age a little bit because I didn't really know anything about Superman until, I watched Mr. Christopher forever, but I didn't know anything about anything about Superman until he fell off that horse. I was Batman. I had Batman everything in my room. Superman was just kind of whatever for me. Of course, I watched the first one, way back when I was a kid, but it didn't really click with me because I was like, I like the dark and mysterious, He was too much hope. I know that's the funny word to say, but it's just like, I was like, man, you're too a bad man that has Pete Holmes and all that. And he, it has them fighting, going back and forth at each other. Is him being Batman, another guy being Superman.
You're boring. Look at you in your stupid outfit.
My father gave me this outfit.
And your dad's dead.
I was like, yes, this definitely tells me this. I feel so much relation to this. That being said, I mean, I'm sure he was awesome. Did he have the underwear?
Yes, he did. He certainly did.
Yeah, I think Henry's the only one. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Do you have any connection to Mr. George Reeves, Rick?
No, even though I'm older than both of you guys, I really didn't watch George Reeves. I watched, Batman also. 66 Batman was my Batman for a while until, we seen Christopher Reeves as Superman. And I always felt like Christopher Reeves as Superman was kind of dainty.
What?
Like he wasn't big and built like my imagination of Superman from the comics and stuff like that. You think of somebody who's like super strong and everything. He just looked like some dude in pajamas to me.
I felt that way for the longest time too, but the older I got, and also I recently saw a video that surfaced behind the scenes of him working out before the first Superman film. Sure, he was a more slender guy, but he was pretty cut. I mean, in way better shape than I've ever been. I didn't know that because I think that suit didn't do him justice also. And he was just a taller, I think Christopher Reeve was relatively tall. Yeah, I actually did an interview with one of his foes from Superman 4, Mark Pillow, and he was probably about 6'3", maybe even 6'4". And if I'm not mistaken, unless they were wearing heels or something like that, Christopher Reeve, was pretty much on the same level there. But yeah, I mean, he was a tall, slender guy is what I'm trying to say. So I think with that, we can transition straight into Christopher Reeve, who literally raised me as a kid, him and Michael Keaton Batman. I had such a love and appreciation for not just the dark characters and not just the light characters, but all the characters. I really appreciated the variety. I was just enthralled with any and all superheroes, not just then, but even now to this day. There's even some redeemable qualities about Miss Marvel to me. Within every superhero and character, there's something that I can find that I like. With Christopher Reeve's Superman, he definitely, as far as his eyes and his face, they cast an unknown for this role. at the time, I mean, he was completely unknown, just some guy off the street, and it worked out great. You know, he looks, as far as his face and everything else, I can get with you on that, Rick, that he wasn't the most Arnold Schwarzenegger-esque.
That's the time too. Like we grew up with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Rambo, WWE, like we were talking about, or WWF at the time, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior. You're thinking like huge guys, and here's this guy in the long sleeve onesie. It's like, this isn't Superman to me. I've never been a big Superman fan either. Like if it's
Sounds like I picked the perfect two guys to join me for this one.
yeah, because like Batman, his rogues gallery makes him better. It's just like Spider-Man, and Superman does not have the depth and the good characters like those two have.
It's the padding, man. Got to have that padding, man. Make you look all tough, bro. Unless you're Henry and you're like, I will not wear padding. I will work out every day, every minute of my life until I am at the physique that is Superman.
See, now that's why I liked Affleck. I know everyone's like, oh, Affleck.
Oh, dude,
I liked him as Batman because
He's my favorite Batman.
Yeah,
Hey.
he was big enough to play that role.
Look, let me tell you something. I know Batman vs Superman is to me, I don't like it as a bad movie.
Save Martha!
But that fight scene alone of him just like, you know, just coming in, just kicking butt, you know, I'm just like, oh, dude, this is great. This is the best scene I've ever seen. You know, I didn't even care about them two fighting. I was like, this was worth the watch. I don't know. I think it's always just how the camera works, angles and all that, and seeing how the fighting sequences and stuff like that. Even with like Christian Bale, is kind of really close up. It's hard to see, you know. And but then with Ben Affleck, you're like, nah, man, he's like kicking. Yeah.
Do you feel like I felt that movie didn't need Doomsday? Like it was rushed in and forced.
Absolutely.
In there. Like Spider-Man 3 didn't need Venom. If they would have do against Sandman, I think it's the same thing. It ruined it by forcing this character in there.
I think when you have too many bad guys, it makes it a little bit rough. Now, I will say, I think Spider-Man, the latest one with all of the
No Way Home.
Yeah, No Way Home. I think they definitely learned from all those mistakes. But like Spider-Man 3 is always rough for me because I was just like, man, it's too many bad guys, too much stuff going on.
Well, there was a lot of bad guys in No Way Home, but the difference was they brought all these characters back.
You already knew who they were.
And made their cameo appearances. Yeah, sure. We already knew who they were, but they made their cameo appearances count. They made it mean something. Not only did they help finish the arc of that film, but they were able to finish arcs from these characters, other films that they had already been in. You know, like you continue to see that development from Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. The way they did that was so flawless. So it's not always about the volume of characters that you have. Just look at Lord of the Rings. They have a ton of characters, right? So it's not always about how many characters you have. It's just how well the writing is and how well executed these characters are on screen. With that being said, I love Lex Luthor, and Brainiac still has not been used yet to this day in a Superman film. And, you know, this is probably something that you guys aren't going to agree with me on, but I love Nuclear Man from Superman 4. Not because I interviewed the guy or anything like that, and because he was a really super nice guy, but I think that's a cool-looking character. There's tons of characters, or tons of villains, rather. I mean, nobody's going to compare to Batman's Rogue Gallery. Spider-Man is the only superhero that might could come close to comparing to Batman's Rogues Gallery.
The cartoon Superman is amazing. When I was a kid, you know, and it had Lex Luthor and it had Brainiac, and you know, I don't know if it was Justice League or if it was just Superman. I can't remember what it was called. I enjoyed it. I thought the cartoon was great. Now, it was something like, I guess it might have been just my age and as a kid, you know, cartoons. But that being said, I also loved 89 Batman. It was a little bit darker, it kind of felt like. So maybe that's why I kind of relate. I liked it a little bit more because it seemed a little bit more dark, if that makes sense. But yeah, Brainiac, if James Gunn was like, hey, we're doing Brainiac, I'd be like, this is going to be fantastic. Maybe. I don't know.
So that's something, I'm glad you mentioned that. They are obviously working on the new Superman film with the new actor, David Cornsweet. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what direction they go. The route that they're going to start their new DCU is giving us this Superman film, with all these other characters that are already living in that world. We're going to get Hawk Girl. We're going to get Green Lantern, but Guy Gardner Green Lantern. It's literally going to be like us joining the MCU after the first Avengers film. I mean, it's going to be pre-populated with a lot of different characters already, which is interesting. And I do wonder if they're finally going to give us Brainiac on the big screen. I think it would be great.
Or just a Lex Luthor that not Jesse.
That was the worst.
I think with James Gunn, I mean, he did very well with Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, they're very solid films. Now, of course, other films in his bag are kind of, I'm kind of whatever about. But I think if it's comic book related, he always does very well. Like Suicide Squad, I thought that was very good, and he just kind of went in. I was like, man, even though he could, I mean, he couldn't mess it up compared to the last one, one before it. But anyway, I think he follows material like he should, and is he thinks of the fan because he's a fan. So Henry will always be my Superman, just because he looks like Superman. It's hard to argue. I was just really bummed that he wasn't used his caliber like he should have. Kind of got the short end of the stick and everything it was in. Just like The Witcher. It sucks. I hate it because it's like, man, he's great in whatever he's in, but it's like, man, it's like he's cursed or something. Because, man, him as Superman, even though, like, I was like, this dude looks like Superman, I'm on board.
Well, before we get too far into Henry Cavill, let's touch on some of the less popular iterations. We'll start with Brandon Routh. Do you guys remember 2006's Superman Returns?
When did it come out? 2006?
Yes.
Okay, so I was...
Brought to us by the same director that gave us the first two X-Men films.
Even as a kid, when I didn't watch it, because I even heard as a kid like that it was no good. It was just like, don't watch it. And that's a big deal back then because it's not like how it is now when everybody's a critic type deal. Even then, everybody was like, yeah, this movie is not going to be good, not good. So I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to watch it. I'm not even going to waste.
Who were you hanging out with, Wyatt?
People that like Batman.
Man, when I saw this movie in theaters, it blew my mind. Those special effects, we had never seen anything like that with a Superman film at that time. Now, granted, this was 2 years before the MCU started, but it was amazing to me. I mean, other than Lex, who really didn't have a very, very large role, there wasn't any like true villain. I mean, I'm not saying the film is great by any means. It's definitely, lower on my rankings list, but at the time, I truly, truly appreciated it.
Is Blade above that movie?
Yes.
Okay, well, we're good then.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in the 4s, maybe 3s. It's somewhere in that territory.
And I say that I probably should watch it. I guess it was just I
You've
heard
never seen it.
Never seen it. I need to watch it. It was one of them things where it was like it felt like because it was just Superman Returns, and you're just like, where'd he go? Like why is it?
Well, it's a spiritual successor to the original 2 Christopher Reeve Superman films, and what they were going for here was basically an homage / sequel. And they ignored Superman 3 and 4 in lieu of giving us this, like I said, reboot, sequel, homage, whatever you want to look at it as. But that's why the actor they chose, Brandon Routh, who also at that time was a fairly unknown actor, looks a lot like Christopher Reeve.
Yeah, it's too complicated.
There's only 2 redeeming qualities from that movie that I remember, and that was Lex Luthor dating older ladies until they died so he can inherit their money, and him stabbing Superman with kryptonite and breaking it off in him.
Yeah.
Only 2 redeeming qualities from that movie.
Look, I know Kevin Spacey has been under the microscope as of the past couple years, and whether or not he committed those atrocities, he's been found guilty, so we have to assume that he did. But even though I don't know all the details about his court stuff, whatever.
Yeah, he's broke.
What I'm trying to say is, dare I say, maybe even the best Lex Luthor of all time, even over Gene Hackman. He was absolutely amazing in that role. Once again, it's almost sacrilegious to say that he was better than Gene Hackman, but I really, truly believe that in my heart. He was the best Lex that we've seen by a mile.
It's a very hard kind of role. Like you need somebody it just needs one of those actors that very pivotal. And of course, like, even like saying like Kevin Spacey, he was a phenomenal actor. So, I mean, gosh, it was John Doe in Seven. He barely had any lines, but you were still like, this dude is terrifying. Piece of poop. And, it was, but still like, but still.
It's a piece of crap. Come on, man.
Poop. That's definitely a big shoes to fill, and it's very hard to find. I don't even know who you would even cast for that role now. What kind of actors do we have that would kind of
Bryan Cranston was there, and they missed that opportunity.
Say my name.
Bryan Cranston? That'd be perfect, man. Pull out some Heisenberg situation, bro. Yeah, man, go bald. Yeah, dude, do it.
Yeah, that was literally the perfect casting, and the worst possible casting we got to see in Batman versus Superman, like you mentioned earlier with Jesse Eisenberg. You know, that's one of those casting decisions where when you first hear it, just like with Michael Keaton as Batman back in '89, just like with Heath Ledger as the Joker in 2008, whenever it was, okay, that's a bold decision. You better knock my socks off with that casting decision. Jesse Eisenberg never even came close. It was totally the wrong choice, and the direction they took Lex Luthor, which, if you want to call him that, was not Lex Luthor. That's probably one of the many glaring negatives about the Henry Cavill era. But before we get to that era, let's quickly touch on Tyler Hoechlin, who both of you guys probably have never heard of, and you both have probably never seen Superman and Lois.
Nope.
That TV show?
Dean Cain, wasn't he one?
Okay, well, yeah, we'll mention we'll throw Dean Cain out there just for a bit. In the early '90s, early to mid '90s, when Dean Cain was Superman, he pulled it off. Fair enough, well enough. I don't think that Superman should be relegated to TV, but that's a whole another argument. I think that he should be a character that feels like a big deal. Just like how DC have kind of protected Batman from that. We've never seen a Batman TV show.
Oh, I guess, Gotham.
Yeah, Gotham? Yeah, you don't really see Batman. I mean, it's a young,
I'm excited for Penguin. I'm so excited.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be an epic show. Now, that's kind of different. Once again, I thought that in that era, when we didn't have that much Superman content, Dean Cain pulled off Superman well enough. Does anybody have any Dean Cain comments?
I'm sorry, man. I don't know who that is.
What do you think, Rick?
Yeah.
It was okay.
I only watched a little bit, but I thought, what's his name? Tom
Welling?
Yeah, Tom Welling for Smallville, even though he never put on the suit. But, I thought it was different. It was kind of cool because it kind of it had a lot of Easter eggs. I thought he did an okay job as far as that goes.
That's a superhero show that I never watched. And there are some diehard fans in the dark corners of the internet that absolutely view that show as one of the greatest, not only Superman shows, but one of the greatest superhero shows of all time. Once again, I never saw it, so I can't really give you my opinion on that version of Superman. I think he did don the suit in the very, very last episode just for a brief little hot second, but that's all we really got there.
I've only seen snippets. I like that he kind of it was more low-key. He's Superman before he's Superman. I don't know. And I think that him, as far as a TV show goes, I thought it was pretty cool because it also had kind of Flash, it had Barry Allen on it, and him being a pickpocket. And Aquaman. So it's just like I said, it had the bones, so to speak, but it just was made for TV.
Tyler Hoechlin, you guys have both never seen Superman and Lois, but I would highly recommend that show. Superman and Lois is probably one of the better CW shows out there. Arrow started off great, first couple seasons, then it just crashed and burned. The same could be said with The Flash. The first couple seasons were really, really good, and it also really went downhill. I haven't seen all of Superman and Lois, but I have watched the first 2 seasons. And so far, I think there's only going to be 4 seasons. The 4th season comes out this year. So far, I really like the Superman. I'm not going to say he's even in my top 3, but he's a good Superman, a solid Superman. With all that being said, let's move on to the granddaddy of them all, the Superman. The Superman with the best bod. As a matter of fact, guys, let's just take this moment of silence real quick for the all-time best Superman that we've ever gotten. Henry Cavill, our best Superman.
I know Jonathan was like, I'm going to say this, and there's nothing that y'all two are going to stop me.
Weird.
I
had this already pre-planned. You just don't understand.
I actually didn't. I just did that from the seat of my pants. I don't know if you can tell or not. As far as how he looks, this dude is freaking jacked, man. I mean, they don't make people like this anymore. This guy is literally a Greek god. the way he's built.
And how old was he when he did that? I don't think he was, he wasn't no young buck that was just like, yeah, it's easy to put on mass. So I think it was such a big deal, and he's very dedicated. Like I was saying earlier with The Witcher, he's very dedicated to the material.
He's 41 right now. When he was cast back in 13, that would make him roughly, I don't know, 30.
Yeah, look, I'm 31. I ain't doing that. He was just built for it. It's like the Mountain, Game of Thrones. That dude's just built that way. You come from a giant family type thing. But anyway, yeah, Henry, and I was excited for Man of Steel because I was just like, this dude looks like Superman. I can't wait. And Kevin Costner, Diane Lane was in it. I was like, man, this is stacked, So
yes, his dad in space is Russell Crowe, and his dad on Earth is Kevin freaking Costner.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't get
American
any better than that.
General Zod, the guy who played Zod, was.
Oh yeah, Michael Shannon.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
Oh, he could be a good. I mean, I know it'd be, but he could be a good Lex Luthor, maybe. I think possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know. Henry was Superman to me, and he'll always be Superman. I think that he got dealt a crappy hand with everything being done. Like, I think you posted a meme not too long ago, was saying that, right, Superman, wrong time or something like that. It was something to that effect. Or maybe I don't know if you posted or it was somewhere I saw. But yeah.
I'll take credit for it.
There you go. Man, why couldn't we have him with James Gunn, or just have somebody that I know with Zack Snyder, he's kind of a hit or miss, a lot of miss. I will say the extended 4-hour edition of Justice League, I thought it was pretty solid with Henry in it. I got to see Henry more, not just like mustache CGI.
Oh, that was so bad.
With the face. So to me, it made up for whatever that waste was. So, but yeah, I was excited to see Superman. I was like, man, this he's awesome looking. I cannot wait. He's a good looking guy.
Man, everyone's gay once in a while.
When it comes to like him being himself and not Superman, it was kind of maybe a little bit lackluster. I don't know. I guess because I just didn't really see him as actual Clark Kent and being at the newspaper type style. And I think that kind of weighed on me with everything that I've ever watched Superman. I didn't really get to see him as the other side, as being Clark.
Yeah, there was that one brief moment at the end of Man of Steel where he had the glasses on. He was like,
yeah. And you're just like, dude, you're Superman. Those glasses ain't hiding nothing, man. You're too big, bro.
You're 280 pounds and you're like 6'4". You're jacked. That's
like,
Superman.
Let me go to the payphone. He was like, dude, you can't move around in there, man. I have a hard time just wiping in the bathroom. Your muscles are so big. It's just hard to hide that. I mean, even with that beard he had, I was like, dude, you look like a superhero. You're not hiding anything, man.
Yeah, he's an absolute unit. I don't understand why Man of Steel was such a divided film or divisive film. I personally love that movie still to this day. It's still in my top 5, if not barely out of the top 5, but it's such a well done movie. The soundtrack is so epic. The cast, like you mentioned, I mean, Henry Cavill is perfect for the role. I really enjoyed that real world take that we got with Superman. This movie was like taking place in our world. And how would somebody really react with powers like this? How would a fight go down between two superpowered beings that are from another planet? It's so realistic, and I think that it's very underrated and very underappreciated.
Just for him being a kid and having to try to control, having, man, all this stuff going out. He's too, it's just all his senses are so heightened. And I thought that was really neat to see. He was a kid, before he was Superman. So he was just trying to be normal. And, and I think like with Kevin Costner being the dad he was saying that, you can't show yourself. I'm going to get killed by a tornado before you're going to show your power, son. You know what I'm saying?
And that was controversial, but.
Yeah. And I know that some people, I love Man of Steel. I know a lot of people said they didn't like it because of all the destruction and all that, but it did lead into Superman versus Batman. So I was like, so you can't really hate on it now because.
And then they crapped the bed worse than Amber Heard.
And also any movie that has Chris Cornell from Soundgarden and the soundtrack, I'm all about it.
He's in the soundtrack for Man of Steel?
Yeah. Man of Steel was fantastic. I mean, like I said, even in Justice League, I enjoyed seeing him. I know it's subpar. Superman versus, Batman was subpar. But getting to see him, I was just like, man, this is great. Could be worse. Could have had Nicolas Cage, but, whatever.
Wouldn't that have been something?
I know he was supposed to have his own movie, but was his movie supposed to be Superman Returns? Did I see that?
No, his movie was going to be Superman Lives.
Lives. Okay, yeah.
There was a whole documentary made by the late, great John Schnepp. Really interesting documentary. I remember, I don't know if that's on VOD anymore, but I bought it back when it first came out, back in 2015, 14. But he tried to recreate some of the scenes with animation. And the best look that we got at Nick Cage Superman was in The Flash that came out last year. We saw that in theaters together, Wyatt.
Yep. Nicolas Cage was like, I didn't even know.
Yeah, he was like, what the heck, man? I didn't even know I was going to be in this movie. They totally used my likeness without my permission.
Yeah, can I sue? And we're like, no, you don't have to, man. This movie, you don't got to sue.
We own you.
You should feel bad for him. Don't sue, man. Like,
with all that being said, I want us to give our ranking list of our least favorite to our favorite Superman. I'm going to start off. I think that my least favorite Superman is probably George Reeves, only because I have little to no connection to that version of Superman. Second to the bottom is going to be Tyler Hoechlin. Once again, he looks good in the role, but definitely not my favorite. Number 3, I'll give a shout out to Mr. Dean Cain. I think that he looked the part, and at that time, it's pretty decent Superman. And then right above him, I'm going to go with Brandon Routh because he definitely looked the part. We're also not speaking to the films themselves, just the portrayal of Superman. So Brandon Routh's film might not have been the best, but I thought that he looked good in the role. And this is really tough. It might be really controversial, but it is what it is. It's my opinion. I love Christopher Reeve. He raised me almost just as much as my parents, but I'll give my parents a little more credit than that. I mean, they obviously, did a great job raising me, but
They just unsubscribed from your channel.
Christopher Reeve definitely had a huge impact on my life, but I got to go with him at second place and put Henry Cavill at first if we're just going off portrayal alone. And honestly, Man of Steel is by far my favorite Superman movie of all time. Yeah, Henry Cavill was literally made to play this role.
Yeah, I'm going to keep mine real short and sweet. It's going to be Cavill, Reeves, all the rest all blend together for me.
Cavill's number 1 for you?
Yeah, I have to say.
Okay.
Looks it, like we discussed earlier, Reeves. I mean, yeah, facially, Reeves, when you think Superman, you probably think that. But anything under that headshot is just...
He's a butterface is what you're saying.
The guy in pajamas is what he is. It's like when everybody talks about Adam West in the Batman suit. It's the same thing.
Yeah, Adam West, I'm just not a big fan. I'm sorry, but it was such
charisma, man.
such a cheesy Batman.
I think he did very well as just being Bruce Wayne, but but as in being Batman, you're just like, I really feel like all these bad guys should be able to just push you over, man. Like it's just everything about you just screams like, dude. It's just even the Riddler. I was just like, man, look, I'm pretty sure one punch, you should be done, man.
Yeah, I'll take bat nipples over Adam West. Go ahead, Wyatt. Throw us your Superman rankings.
It is exactly like Rick's. Just because nobody stands out to me, I know the name Christopher Reeves. I know the name Henry Cavill. But everybody else, I'm like, I don't know him that well. So Henry is my Superman.
Well, guys, once again, thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Comic Book Cinema. If you haven't already, make sure you check us out on social media. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, have a good one.